I'm going to show you what you have in your kit so that you know what everything is called. This is your mesh backing piece. It's made of pet mesh. You're going to have your front piece, which is made of canvas. It'll be in whatever color you've ordered. You're going to have a long piece of webbing with a clip on it. This is going to be your edging. You're going to have two identical length pieces like this. Those are going to be to divide up your panels. You'll have two smaller identical length pieces. These are going to be for attaching buckles. You'll have your buckles themselves and two tri-glides, and you'll have a labeled chest strap and belly strap. The last piece of your kit is going to be these iron-on sheets. I switched how we were doing these. Originally I was going to cut them all out on the Cricut, but now you have them all set to go in one sheet. So that's your full middle panel, and these are each of your side panels. It's going to make it easier so that you don't have to line up every piece. So the first thing you're going to do is just layer your pet mesh and your canvas. And I like to use these little clips. They're just quilting clips, but you can use pins as well. And I'm just going to put a couple of clips on to keep everything in place. The next thing you're going to do is grab your identical length dividers, and we're going to look at the chart that is on step 3. So I know that let me just look at my chart here. So this is a medium that I'm building, and so I'm going to measure 3.75 inches from the edge, and that is where this strip is going to go. So I'm going to clip it down, and it's 3.75 inches here, just to the edge of this piece of webbing. I'm going to do the same on the other side. 3.75, like that. And I'm just clipping this down. Now that we have this nice and clipped down, we're going to go over to the sewing machine and just sew in a box around each of the strips. Now over at the sewing machine, I'm going to sew, just like I said, in a box around these straps. I'm using black thread. I've got my stitch length set to maximum. You can use a medium length or a long length stitch. And yeah, I'm just going to sew about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch from the edge of that strap. Now when I get to the end, I'm going to put my needle down, but I'm going to lift my foot up, and that allows me to turn the entire project so that I can make that box without having the project move on me. Just going to go to the other side, same thing. And I'm going to do one last turn to finish my box. I like to back up a couple of stitches at the end just to lock everything in place. And I'm going to repeat that for the other strap. Back over at the cutting table, we're just going to cut off these little ends here, just following along the curve of the vest. that. And now you have your divider straps. This should be, for a medium, 3.75 inches from the edge on each side, and that makes your middle panel the right size. So the next thing you're going to do is take your edging, which is the one that has the clip on it. I'm going to take these clips off the project now because everything should be sewn down with the straps. Okay, so we're going to take the webbing in this V shape. So just kind of fold it in half in a V shape, and we're going to lay that along the edge, outer edge, and put a clip or a pin. And we're going to keep folding and clipping. And I like to put clips every inch or so because that really helps it all stay together. So I'm going to do this, and when I get to the corner, I will let you know what happens there. Okay, you want to put your last clip about an inch from the corner, and then I like to turn my project so this is a little easier. And we're going to lay down and kind of leave a little bit of room for the corner there. But just like you were wrapping around the corner of a building, maybe, you're going to go to the edge and then over, and then continue in that manner. Again, we've reached a corner. We're going to do the same thing, about an inch from the edge, fold over, and again about an inch from the edge. We're going to come back and finish these corners afterwards, and I'll show you how to do that. Now, around the curve, more clips are better, but for the most part, with how shallow I've made these curves, you can clip an inch or an inch and a half ahead, and then if you have, like here you can see it's kind of bubbling out, just put another clip there. Again, it's kind of bubbling out here. I'm just going to put another clip to keep everything in place. Last corner, we're going to do the same thing, about an inch from the edge. I have to show you how to finish the corners first. So I like to take a pair of sharp scissors. I've got my big ones here, and you're going to look at this corner, and you want to divide it into thirds. And what you're going to do is you're going to clip 1/3 from the right and 1/3 from the left, leaving the middle third intact. Hope that's focused. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our lighter, and we're going to just burn or singe these corners so that they melt a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold one set of tabs in. Let me show this a little better. We're going to fold one set of tabs in and the other set of tabs on top. And that's going to make you a nice little corner. I like to put a clip there so that when we're sewing it down, it stays in place. We're going to do that for all of the corners. So 1/3 from one side, 1/3 from another side. Melt a little bit. You can see it doesn't take much. We're just kind of getting rid of that fringe. And then you're going to fold and fold. Clip. Let me see if I can show this one up close. So again, we're going to clip 1/3 from one side, 1/3 from the other side. You'll have these little tabs. You're going to melt your little tabs. If they stick together, you can just cut them again or pull them apart. Sometimes that does happen. And then we're going to go tabs like that. So down and on top. You've got all your clips on, your corners are prepped, and then this last corner will just be a fold over and sew. So you don't need to do anything to prep this last corner. Now let's go over to the sewing machine. So we're gonna start, we've got this kind of long flappy end, we're gonna pull that back. If it gets in your way, you can just clip it kind of out of the way there. And we're gonna start in this top left corner of the vest. I like to start just so that my presser foot is on top of the webbing and is not at an angle. That'll make it harder to start. Again, you're going to want to stay about 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I like to hold everything down flat, and then I'm going to sew around the edge, and I'll show you what to do when we get to the corner. Depending on your sewing machine, you might need to go slow over this part because it's got an extra layer with the strap here. If you get stuck, you can crank your machine by hand to get through those tough parts. Now we're at the corner. I'm going to take that corner clip off, and you want your tabs on your corner so that you can run right off the edge and not run into a tab. So the tab is going to be on top here. I'm going to go pretty fast because I know my machine can handle it, but I'm going to go up and over that corner about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch past where the other strap intersects. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to leave my needle down because this is the easiest way to turn your project. I'm going to lift my presser foot and turn. So now we're ready to start going the other direction. It can be hard to get your machine to start here because your foot might be at an angle. So what I recommend is take that tri-glide that I gave you and tuck it under the back of your foot. This is going to help your foot stay level so that you can actually start sewing instead of getting stuck. And all you need is just a couple of stitches to get started, but this can give you the leverage that you need. And if you notice, I am sewing to the clip, removing the clip, sewing to the clip, removing the clip. That's going to keep everything in place for you so that it doesn't slip around. We're at a corner. I'm holding it down with my finger. I'm going to sew up over the corner. You see my machine got stuck there. It's now stuck here. So I'm just going to use my wheel on the back of my machine to slowly move that needle down so that I can turn my project again. Presser foot up, turn, presser foot down. Very important to put your presser foot back down or you will get a bird's nest underneath. I know my machine can do it. If you need it, put that tri-glide underneath. For the curves, we want to do the same thing where we're removing a clip, sewing to the clip. This helps us stay nice and even along those curves. I'm fast at this. I've done a lot of it. Take your time. lots of clips, but that's what makes this work. Another corner. I'm going to come up over. And now we're on our final stretch here. So I've got my last bit that needs to be clipped on, so I'm just going to fold that over and apply 2 clips just to keep about an inch spacing between them. What we're going to do is we're just going to run right off the edge here to tack down this last corner. So once you've run off the edge, press your foot up, cut your thread, and I like to go, now that it's tacked down, I like to flip it over and take a look at the back and see if it is nicely, if I've caught all of the edge. Which I have, but I also like to go through and just run my machine over it one more time, go all the way around again just to make sure everything is really tacked down. When we get to the end, we can just lift up our needle and our presser foot and cut the thread. Now we'll go over to our cutting table. And here is your finished vest base. We're just going to need to cut off this extra strapping here. So what I'm going to do is cut the threads that are in the way, just to get them out of my way. And then I'm going to cut perpendicular so that I'm just cutting off that corner. You can see that there's a little bit of raised part there, so I'm going to cut a little bit more off. And now you can see that it's kind of fuzzy. We're going to use our lighter to melt the end of that. So I like to do it 5-10 seconds. And then kind of press, careful of your fingers, but make sure that that is nice and sealed off so that we don't have any fraying. So now I'm going to show you how to attach the straps. You should have 2 of these side release buckles. This is the female end and this is the male end. That's the easiest way for me to describe it. The fork end and the not fork end, however you want. So you're going to have 2 of these. One is going to be for the belly strap and one is going to be for the chest strap. These are labeled, so we'll start with the belly strap. Just take your little sticker off of here. You don't need that anymore. If you do take your stickers off and get these mixed up, the chest strap is the longer one. We'll start with the belly strap. So what you're going to do is take your tri-glide and you're going to go through your tri-glide like this. So it is just through both sides, and then we're going to fold it over. And I like to put a clip here. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew along here, but we're going to prep the other strap first. So now you've got your chest strap. I'm going to leave the label on this one. And you're going to do the same thing. We're going to go through the tri-glide, back down, and put a clip right here. that is the first step for getting your straps prepped. So now we'll go over to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew along where the clip is to secure the Tri-Glide onto these straps. Okay, over at the sewing machine, I've got my 2 little straps here, and adjust your tab so that you have enough room to fit your entire presser foot on there. It'll be easier. So now I like to start in the middle again, because if your presser foot is at an angle, it's not gonna start very easily. And I'm just gonna sew back and forth with a straight stitch. So go to the end, hold down my reverse, go to the front, go forward, etc. So I just go back and forth about 3 times. Oops. Ooh, too much thread. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing with the chest strap. So I'm going to put my whole presser foot on there about in the middle. Go back and forth about 3 times. And then those are secured. Back at our workbench, I'm going to cut off the threads that are left on there from the sewing machine. There we go. And we'll start again with our belly strap, which is our shorter strap. So now that you have this Tri-Glide on the end, we're going to, with the sewn sides of the little tab part, when that with that facing up, we're going to take the opposite end and thread our fork end through like this. So this is going to be, so this side where you can see that it's kind of upside down, we actually want it to be right side up here, and we're going to go through that fork backwards and back down. And I'm going to show this again. I like to make it a little bit shorter, and then we're going to feed back through the Tri-Glide. And that is your adjustable belly strap. I'm going to show this one more time for the chest strap. So we're going to take the part that is sticking up, that's going to face upwards, and we're going to take the forked end of our buckle, and we're going to have it facing in this direction, and we're going to feed through the front, down the back. I'm going to scooch it up, and we are going to go through the Tri-Glide to make that adjustable strap. Here I'm going to remove the chest strap sticky because I know that it is the longer one. And so there is your chest strap and your belly strap. These 2 little pieces are going to be used to secure the non-fork end. So you're going to want to put them through like this. It is going to be easier to sew them on without the buckle there at first. So I'm just demonstrating how they will sit on the edge of the vest. But I'll show you at the sewing machine an easier way to do it. Over at the sewing machine, you've got all of your buckles and your little straps. I'm going to start with the belly strap, which is the shorter one. And we're going to take our project and look at the left side. You can do this on either side. I always do them on the left side for consistency. And you want to find the part that is halfway down the long side and put a clip there. That's where your belly strap is going to go. With it clipped in place, I sometimes find the clip gets in the way. You're going to end up sewing like we did on the strap itself. We're going to just sew back and forth about 3 times. I'm just going to cut the threads on this so I can keep everything neat as I go. And then the next strap is your chest strap. This is going to go on the same side you attach the belly strap, but it's going to go halfway along the short side. And clip. Again, sew back and forth several times. Now you have your 2 front straps on. Now I'm going to show you how to sew on the non-fork side of your buckles. So we're going to start by just sewing down the 2 strips first. Then we'll flip over the project, put the buckles on, and attach them last. So I like to do the same way we did before. We're going to take and go halfway down the side of our panel. Again, I'm going to sew back and forth a couple times. Now we have this attached. I'm going to cut the threads and do the same over here. Okay, we've got our 2 straps sticking out there. I'm going to cut the threads and then we'll flip over the project. Okay. With it flipped over, I want you to take your buckle and make sure that your buckle is upside down. Your project is upside down, so your buckle is upside down. You're going to put it on like this and clip so that everything stays in place. This is going to be, I believe, the thickest section you're going to have to sew through on the entire project, so just go slow, use your hand crank if you need to. And now, when we flip it front side, that buckle is on there. Now you can see immediately that there is some fraying here. That's normal. Your feed dogs underneath are kind of chewing up that strap, but I'm going to show you how to fix it. So I'm going to cut off the frayed part. We're going to grab our lighter and we're just going to singe this part of the project. You want to be careful because you don't want to burn the canvas, so I like to kind of get that webbing as far away as I can. And I'm just going to do the edge so that it is no longer frayed. Second one, buckle upside down, project upside down. We're going to line up our strap with the edge of that edging, and we're going to do the same thing. Over at the cutting table, I'm just going to take off these little threads from the sewing machine. And I'm going to double check that my webbing is not frayed. It is a little bit here, so I'll hit it with the lighter again. Make sure you get your threads on the front and the back. And we're just going to use our lighter to gently make sure that doesn't fray. So now you have your full vest panel. The last thing to do is to apply the iron-on, which is what I'm going to show you next. So here I'm going to show you how to apply the design. And you'll see that I switched colors here. That's because we actually switched how we're doing this. So before I was cutting out everything on the Cricut, and now I'm getting these just little pieces made so that everything is all together for you. And you can just kind of apply it all in one go. So what I like to do is, you can see here that this is kind of sticking off the edge. I'm just going to trim it up so that it sits nicely on my project. I'm using this little mini iron. This is a Cricut Heat Press. It's going to be on the first setting, or the lowest setting. There we go, now it's ready. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of parchment paper like this. It has to be at least as big as your iron, or as big as the area that you're ironing on. But you don't need more than that. I'm going to make sure this is lined up. Hold it down with one hand. Switch hands. And then I'm going to apply my iron. So the goal here, I'm going to take these off. The goal here is we're going to press for between 5 and 10 seconds in each section. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to start with 5. I'm going to move to the next section. My kitty wants to come say hi. So you want to apply pretty firm pressure. And I'm just getting all of the sections here. Want to make sure that you're getting everything. Kitty, you're gonna come help. And then I'm gonna let it cool for a second. So it's pretty hot. I'm gonna check. Oh, there we go. So you just let it cool for a couple seconds, and then you should be able to peel everything. And there is your design. Now for the side panels, the little iron helps, especially if you have a smaller vest. But you can use a standard iron for this. You just want to be careful, because if your iron is on the webbing part, it can melt. So that's why we're using a low heat setting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look to this corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the last corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this is the first press. This is just getting it to stick. We'll go back and we will do a second press to make sure that everything is really on there. Okay, I've given it, it's still kind of hot. And I can see that it's not tacked down in this corner. So I'm going to do another press there. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to check a corner. There we go. And you should, oh, you can see it's peeling a little bit there. That's okay. As long as everything comes off of the backing, the second press will really secure it. So now I'm going to do a second press here. Apollo, I cannot help you right now. So I'm just going to put my parchment paper down. It's very important because the iron will melt your project if you put it directly on the project. So parchment paper down, and we're just going to go over all those little sections quickly. And this is just with some pressure to get them to stick down. And you can see that it is all now sticking. I'm going to do a second press on the middle while I'm here. And then let's do that last panel. They should be a perfect fit. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously this will take more presses if you have a bigger piece. If you're doing an XL, this is an extra small. So just take your time and 5 seconds and then check it. You can always do more, you can't do less. So this one's peeling up a bit. You can see that that T of distract is going to come up. So I'm going to, again, this is just kind of patience and working along. But this iron-on is a hot peel, so it should, once it's tacked down, you should be able to peel the whole thing off. You don't really need to wait for it to cool. T right in the corner is being stubborn. You can see there that that S is peeling up. So yeah, sometimes it doesn't work as well as you want it to. And you just need a little bit more patience to get everything to stick down. Those first two worked really well. Sometimes it is just like that. We've got that T down, there we go. And as I'm slowly peeling it up, I'm checking to see if anything is lifting, and if it is, I'm going to hit it with the iron again. So you can see that T is lifting. Just going to give it a... What this is doing is just melting the iron onto the fabric. Come on, man. There we go. So we can do a second press here. And there is your completed extra small Sew with Scoot kit.